pledge allegiance to Ed. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Good evening. Sorry for the delay. They seem to want to have pictures of us every year. I don't really know why. I like my old picture from 8 years ago. I had less gray hair.
And I'm all white now from when I started, so.
Bob is taking the 10-year Facebook challenge.
Yes, yes. We're going to do a little out of order. We're going to go to approve the minutes so that we can then go on to both items or presentations, and we'll go to the floor. So, Pete, would you do approval of the minutes, and then I will hand it over to you.
Approval of the minutes. Resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent Board of Education hereby approves the minutes of the December 19, 2018 regular meeting as submitted.
Second?
Thank you, Lynn. All in favor? There are always two different points where you may have questions. The superintendent will be presenting the first part of the budget workshop. It's the district's estimate at this point in January. If you've been through this with us in the past, each month it gets progressively more informational. It gets more accurate. We're hearing it as well. The board does not take any action on the budget until the spring. These three meetings, January, February, March, will be broken down into component parts. You will have the opportunity to ask questions with regards to that and anything that you see on the minutes this evening. And then at the close, there is always an open forum for our community to ask whatever you'd like to ask. Hopefully that we can answer. Okay?
Okay, let's go down below for my message. Glad to see many of our regulars made it this evening. I was afraid with the electronic sign out, everybody might forget, but you made it. Thank you for coming out.
Oh, we got your phone call.
And those we don't see all the time. Before we get to the first budget presentation, in my message, we are at mid-year already, surprisingly. Next week is actually the close of the first half of the year. Can't believe it. But we did hire the support mental health in the district, a social worker, basically an independent person from the rest of the TPS department, who reports to the principals and works closely with the kids that we might be concerned about. So at mid-year, I'd like to talk to you about her and a related incident that just happened, why she is very special to us. Kayla came aboard this year. Worked very hard previously in William Floyd. Now, she's done a few things. And even though she's independent, I'm glad she worked over the holidays with all the social workers in the district to raise a lot of money, and they supported 6 families within Mount Sinai over the holiday. She regularly attends mental health forums to learn about the state mandates, what's in the curriculum, and meets with other districts to create an action plan so we can sit with other districts. How are they rolling out the curriculum, and what are they doing? How are they following the state mandates? So she attends these meetings about once a month. The interesting thing in number 3, I used to try to do this in my former teaching position how many read Catcher in the Rye when they're in school? I mean, it's been there forever. Now, we know Holden, the main character, has some issues. And if you recall in the first chapter, he talks about how he's writing how he got in this place, this therapeutic setting. So when the two social workers in these English classes, they're talking about Holden's character, but they're also talking about teenage depression. Now, if you recall, he can't get over his little brother dying, and that was his issue. So you're there to talk about the character in the book, but you're also teaching a mental health lesson and dealing with character's depression, which opens up a whole discussion, gives you a platform in the English classroom to talk about what teenagers are thinking about depression and anxiety. So I'm glad she's going into classes to do that, not just in a health role. She's meeting now with about 10 students, actually added to that in the last 2 days. In district office, we got a call from a very concerned grandmother about her grandson, freshman, who's anxious and does not feel he's able to attend school. Anxiety, school phobia, it's not new to me. I've dealt with that a lot in my former life. And so he's on home instruction. We're trying to wean him off that to come back slowly. So he didn't have a very successful day in the high school the other day. In my conversation with Rob Grable, he told me, Gordon, believe it or not, most of our school phobic kids, anxious kids, are freshmen. I found that to be very interesting, and I want to know why. Why is that happening? Freshmen. So I was going back and forth today to arrange, now Kayla being a little different, enrolled in our other social workers, I'm asking her to go to the home to get the grandmother's permission to visit him and talk to him, okay? And see what's going on there. The way to do that, the way we used to do it in my former district, is you try to get them back for a period or two a day, maintaining home instruction, and extend that day in presence in school. So eventually it gets through. But it takes a lot of work, a lot of patience on the faculty part, but you have to build a trust level, and you have to have individuals in the school that they can go to, and then you give that kid a pass if he needs to get out of class and go right to that person. So that's what we're hooking up right now. It's a challenge, but we've got to win that one, because if all you probably know, and in my past life too, freshman year is where a dropout starts to form. And if we have kids who are school phobic or anxious about attending, we don't want to have dropouts in our district. We've got to give it every chance we've got. So Kayla's doing that, and that's invaluable. So her load of students between middle school and high school, if anyone's suspended or suspended again and repeat infraction, Kayla gets hooked up with them right away. If it's a vaping paraphernalia or vaping, she gets involved in that right away. So the principals are delighted to work with her. She's heading in the middle school a little program called HOPS, Homework, Organization, Planning Skills. A lot of you know middle school, boy, do they need that. Okay? So they're going to run that in grade 5. I think that's really good prior to 6, 7, and 8. So I'm going to be monitoring, see how that HOPS program goes in the middle school. She's also hooking up through that the mental health forums to arrange professional development for our teachers, because they play such a crucial role in our kids' lives, the most time with them during the day, the most influential people in school are the teachers. So what information, PD, can we give them for mental health to support it in the classroom when you see it? So you know how to react when a student has a breakdown or is not on the money that day and is slightly off. I asked her, because we can spot, I have her monitoring attendance in all 3 buildings, elementary, middle, and high school. Who's hit 5 absences? Who's hit 10? At mid-year, 10 is a concern. Contact the home. Why are they absent? Not acceptable. Is there other things, other supports that child needs? We, again, through my study of my former life, how dropouts form, poor attendance is a real start in the elementary school. School's not that important, you can stay home today. And then she plans lessons with health teachers to make sure that the New York State mental health curriculum is being embedded in those lessons, often even co-teachers with the teacher. So this is off to a good start. I just like to have a person, when I'm a little alarmed about a behavior of a student, unfortunately, I can be aware of every suspension, out-of-school suspension we have in the district. So something seems to me where a kid, my dashboard light goes on, my alarm goes off, I'm hooking her up with that child. Find out what's wrong, what's going on. So we have that extra support in place. I will report again in a few months on Kayla, and perhaps bring her in and share the report to the board and the community about what the year was like.
Gordon, may I add something?
Yes.
What's important to recognize is last year there was a great deal of discussion of security. There was a great deal of discussion about our armed guards, and the board itself advocated for this position, which was never in existence before. There are social workers that are in schools. This is using a social worker as a preventative tool. The social worker is not assigned to any particular building, so she has the freedom to be in each of the buildings. And really what drove it for me was we were willing to spend a lot of money on fencing, on security, all necessary things, but what is it we're keeping in? What are we doing? And this was about bringing in a professional about mental health education that is for our students and is intended long before there's ever an issue that it could be addressed. And even in these few short months, it's been very successful, and I can see that it will continue to grow exponentially. And I thank my fellow board members for advocating for this, and I think this has worked out well.
Thank you, Bob. And that was part of the board's initial plan, in addition to all the things you've seen built around us, to have this mental health worker in place. And it's going to pay dividends. In one of the upper level classes she was in, she was talking to the class teacher, introduced her, and what she does, and she was talking about, some of the kids actually said, oh, I didn't know we had someone go and talk to. It's a little strange, but I validated that statement. Like, you can't really talk to your counselor, or you can't. So it's all about trust. Who are they going to trust? And, you know, she has a persona that I think the kids find her easy to approach. Next, jumping from what's going on with STEM and STEAM. A lot's going on with it, and it's going to get brighter and more and busier as we progress. I just threw a few sample lessons down to show you what's going on in the curriculum. For example, what does elementary do? These are some lessons that were observed and explained to me. I read the observations, so I'm going to mention them quickly. Art class, grade 4, they're called Wigglebots. I said, first, what the heck is Wigglebots? The kids assemble, they get kits, they assemble, you know what that is, Steve? They assemble the kit, it looks like a spider, and they learn how to make it go and everything else. Then the art teacher teaches them to put this miniature magic marker on it, so they program the spider to make designs on a page. So, I thought that was pretty cool. So what does it involve? It involves engineering, math, and elements of design. You know, introducing our kids early. In art class in grade 3, tessellations. What that is, understanding repetition. You see those drawings? The repetition design? The kids get involved in drawing that and creating those pictures. And what does that do? That's geometry. Okay? Earlier, K and grade 2, they're using gumdrops and toothpicks to build chairs and bridges. Okay? And the concept taught, I mean, it's basic, it's primal, but it's engineering and design. Then we get a little more advanced in the art class in grade 5, perspective, desert landscapes. So when you involve the desert, teacher throws in a mini lesson on the desert, what it looks like. What that is, that's a geology lesson or earth science. Art class grade 7, drawing and design of a snowflake, the same thing. Now I get a little crazier in high school. where kids in painting and drawing are doing watercolors, they have to make the sky look appropriate, or if they want to build a haze, what do they do? So they study various photographs and the reasons why the atmosphere looks like it is, then they have to create it. So again, that's earth science. What makes that happen? Portfolio prep, anatomical study, drawing of the human skull, biology. Physics is getting a little crazy. I didn't give you a big description here, but what that is harmonic oscillators and sound. What happens when certain sound waves hit other sound waves, and what sounds do you get? So what the physics teacher is doing is basically bringing in the concept of music and instrumentation. The kids really like that lesson, by the way. Light and color. Again, we say, well, we learned that early on, the difference between primary and secondary, but what they do is they study how the eye sees the light waves. How do we perceive color? What is the biology of our eyes? And that's all cool stuff. But it goes on all the time, and it's spreading like wildfire because Andy sends sample lesson plans, middle school, high school, and elementary school for ideas. And then it gets fed by, we have a great librarian, it goes between the elementary school and middle school, it has makerspace. Whenever Andy has money, he buys some more materials to use. And a cool thing to show that it's catching on is that in our middle school, we have 40 students attending after-school club. 40. I witnessed it myself. The high school has 27 STEM kids. I think I mentioned in a previous board meeting, I went to Fort Jefferson Pool with the STEM club and watched them put in their robotics, aquabots in the pool, and they had to perform tests, picking up parts of a sunken ship, bringing it up, and they had to do it with their back too. The aquabots, very cool. But another good thing, it enhanced our relationship with Fort Jeff. They said, come on over and use our pool. So that's going on. We're also looking at it's budget time. We're talking about our directors get involved, and we're going to spend time explaining to the board a new science book that we're thinking about for our middle school that includes engineering. Our current science books are 20 years old. Things have changed a little bit. No one said STEM 20 years ago. So in each chapter, there's an engineering lesson. But when the STEM committee from the board meets with us, I told Andy today, you'll explain it to him. Perhaps we'll do a brief demonstration explanation why that's a good textbook to get for grades 7 and 8. That it's involving engineering. Okay? I didn't put it down here, but we are hard pressed to get a tech teacher this year who's coming aboard this Friday to observe. He's taught robotics upstate. He's also Project Lead the Way trained, which means he knows how to put STEM lessons into technology classes. So in our future 5-year design, our 5-year plan, we're including robotics courses, not clubs, and we'll be putting, wherever we can, we're going to put STEM and engineering in our other classes. This guy was a find. He's excited about being here. I just wanted to show you a few photographs of our kids after school in the middle school, loving their STEM stuff. So you feed them the equipment and the materials, and they'll have 40 kids after school. I thought that was great. But even greater, 27 kids in the high school staying after and creating robots. It was great. So I'm excited about it. Okay, that's just my update, and you'll hear more throughout the year on STEM, as well as our social work. Can you get ready to hook me up here? As Bob said, and you hear me now, this is the 5th year presenting the budget. This is part 1. It's a guesstimate. We don't have all the figures yet. If you found out, and I know Pete probably looked at it, what Cuomo just said, I'm giving you $1 billion more. Everybody, of course, the Board of Regents and all the education advocates wanted $2.2 billion, but this is $1 billion over last year. We didn't do too badly last year, so that might be encouraging, and people check me and say, make sure you know where the money's going, and I know that, but let's see. And really a lot of stuff here that says I don't trust anyway, who knows where it's going. The city gets a lot of money, but that being said, he's increasing it by $1 billion. Let's see where it falls out. But keep in mind, as Bob said earlier, this is an estimate, guesstimate. We don't get real figures yet. We get our tax levy in March. So whatever we present now and in February starts becoming more real in March. In April, we actually get our state aid figure. So by April, we've got a real good handle on where our budget is. Okay? But Linda's done a great job the last few years of guesstimating and putting us where we are. Okay? And speaking of that, in addition, just to remind you what happened, because regarding our fund balance, everyone was saying it's too high. We reduced it immediately by taking, don't forget, $5 million out last spring. The community voted for the capital projects, the fencing, the field, stuff you see around here. That reduced the fund balance by $5 million right off the top. We took some money, put it in the capital reserve, further reduced the fund balance. So as you go along, you're not going to see fund balance figures like you used to down the road. So guesstimate, and this is our first piece. It's only 13% of the entire budget. It's a little piece of the pie. Little piece. Well, actually, I think most of you heard me say these words. Okay, here's the first part of the budget. Basically running the operation of the district. It's the board's expenses, my expenses. We don't have a lot. It supports the business office and central office. And here it is. If you look, zero increase for this category. Board of Education stays at the same. A lot of that is their dues to New York State School Board Association. District clerk is the same. District meetings, that includes votes, by the way. Chief School Administrator, that's me. That's the organizations I belong to. Linda spends more than me. Note that, please. Auditing, internal, external, treasurer, purchasing, and so forth. And it's zero, no increase. Second part, central printing. Insurance or liability to cover the district. BOCES administrative charges, all of our paper. Okay? Now, insurance, as you know personally, like in a district, it never goes down. Insurance constantly goes up. We lease our machines. We don't own our printers. It saves us money. Right, Ken?
Hard copies. Printers we own.
Copies, I'm sorry. Copies. And then, of course, BOCES. I'll show you that in a minute. So our printing is exactly the same as last year. Insurance, we have to plan for an increase because it's insurance. It covers the liability, student injuries. BOCES administrative budget. This is like when you join Costco or BJ's. You know how you have to pay an initial fee, membership fee, before you buy anything? This is like that, but it's a heck of a lot more than BJ's. Just to use BOCES services, you have to pay $265,000. That's the way it is. And we object to that vehemently every year, and it always sneaks up. But to use any of the BOCES services like we do, that's what it costs us. So for the BOCES increase and a little bit to prepare for the insurance site, it's an $8,000 difference. Technology. Okay, now, here you see you jump on the first line. Before you jump, let me explain what that involves. Ken has reconvened the technology committee in the district for a number of reasons. To approve the plan they have, and also we're involved in 5-year strategic plans. So he needed the community to get together and to create what is technology going to need, what are the needs of technology for 5 years out. And the committee has suggested these things. Are these things in stone as we speak? No. I spoke to Ken on the phone about it the other day. That's a large jump, but what that is people requesting still in their budget. They haven't sat at the table and we haven't said no yet. But Larry Roberts, bless his soul, comes up with things. He wants our music the music theory kids actually have a lab like many districts have. What that involves is special equipment, special computers, and it's not cheap. So I will call, and then Ken's committee, rather than, the old laptop carts that get moved to room in major subjects, the committee would like to go to iPad carts. And probably a lot easier to move and handle. So they're proposing 4 in the high school, 4 in the middle school, and that's not cheap. Now I said to Ken, when we look at this budget and have to cut and decide what we're going to do and not do, even if they get 1 or 2 iPad carts is better than nothing, correct?
Correct.
So that's going to be a moving figure every month when we get down to sit down with principals and directors. You're probably going to see equipment on the top line change. We'll watch it. Contractual, that involves all the servers, service maintenance, the things Ken has to do contracts for to service the infrastructure. And then material supplies, that stays the same. Software, again, that goes up a bit. What BOSS is going to cost us. So this figure, again, this is definitely not in stone. It has to be talked about, negotiated, sold. But depending on when this budget goes, depending on where our figures go, none of this is in stone and may be changed. I mean, these are wishful thinking, some of this stuff, but I don't know how real it is at this point tonight. Transportation's always big. Every year, Linda plans a 2% increase based on our contract and things. We just had a lovely discussion with our bus person, manager of the company, who's offering us, as an administrator, former principal, and even in my office now, offering us free cameras at the buses, maybe. I need to speak with them. I'm going for cameras and buses. Because what that does for discipline and trouble on a bus, you have no idea. Anywhere, like in school, when you have a camera, you catch that incident on camera, parent comes in, my son did not do that, watch the film, there's no discussion, it's done. And there are some issues on bus, I deal with them, not a lot, but if we can make them happen in our discussion for nothing, I'm going for it, okay? But he's been good to us. Tom is a great guy, especially we're getting into inclement weather. He and I talk at all hours of the night, all hours of the morning, to see if we're ready to go and we can open school. And he said, because we are such nice people and a great customer, am I right or wrong? He said it. Give me cameras. Last year, it went outside. Believe it or not, our actual cost was 2.2 last year, not 2. So here's transportation. And some of this might sound a little strange to you, the way they are. Regular transportation of buses in our district, that's our actual. You see what we budgeted for last year. Our actual was a little higher, so Linda counted 2% higher on our buses. Field trips, athletic transportation. Now, look at the difference. See, budgeted last year, we actually had to spend 170, not 153. So Linda went 2% over the 170. That's where that figure goes from. OCED, our kids going to BOCES classes, 2%. Out of district special ed, going to students placed outside the district, 2%. Non-public transportation. We bus kids to parochial schools, other schools, non-public, and we put 2% in. In-district special needs, who need special busing for our kids with disabilities. Non-public late. We have late buses, according to New York State law. This is one of those non-funded mandates. You have to provide late buses for the outside students. Contingency, play it safely, and always puts $100,000 away if we need buses extra, if we can't cover it for some reason. Okay? So what does that come down to? All of that, it's about a $76,000 increase when you plan on 2% over last year. This is good news for us here. Good news. Now, we've talked about it at budget meetings, we talked about it with a lot of our different meetings last year, construction on campus, things like that. But finally, that 25-year-old bond on the high school years ago to borrow that money is going to be paid off this year. It's finally coming to an end. So you can see how much less that costs us in principal as the loan expires. The next category, of course, when the loan expires, you don't have interest, right? So that's waning as well. And then TAN interest, Linda said that's higher because the interest rates are going up as they're publicized. Our installment debts on trucks and tractors is that next one. Our energy contract, which we've had for years, and we have about 2 more years left on it. That's an annual payment. The what? Oh, then you lied to me then. How many more years do we have on that? Okay, it's more like 4 years. 4 years. Let's pay that. Anyway, the good news is in this category, it's down almost $1 million because the bond is being paid off. Okay? So, the summary for tonight, 13% of the budget, guessing. The administrative expenses, I told you, they're not going up. Central printing, insurance, and BOCES charges, yeah, they went up $8,000. Technology, that's going to be, the mysterious figure, we'll determine that in the next few weeks. Transportation, again, an average of 2% every year. Debt service is down because the bond is expiring. So overall, in January's portion of the budget, we are in the black, 660. We're not spending that money right now. Okay, 668.55. Next month, we talk about PPS, pupil personnel services, our building principals budgets, instructional and ancillary, which is, I think that's Bob's term, which is adult ed drivers, and that's no cost to the district. Okay, so that's February, that'll be here before we all know. Okay? So again, guesstimate, we won't know real figures. We get tax levy in March, we get state aid in April, and the next few months, tonight and February, is telling you what we think is going to happen, our best guess at this time. All right? So, and then the biggest difference, the headline for tonight is the bond's being paid off, it's not as much money. According? Yes.
The building was aidable when the bond was first issued, and we had been receiving aid on a deferred basis against that bond. Will we be losing aid?
Yes, yes. As the bond is done.
So although the bond is coming off, we're also going to be losing
Right.
aid.
The
That's
Some
what-
revenue.
Yeah.
Good point, thank you. Thank you. Okay, the board like to return for the agenda? Thanks, Ken.
Ed had a question on the agenda. Did anyone else have a question on the agenda?
I had a question on the technology piece. Some years ago, we had the smart bond. It was supposed to be bringing in money for technology. Is that been spent or?
The smart bond was money received to upgrade, for the most part, upgrade your transmission ability of data to and from Albany.
Okay.
So a lot of it was used, almost all of it was used. There was some money that was earmarked. I don't think we've actually even gotten it.
No, Ken, you want to say a little?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
we're,
spoke to Ken about it,
Right.
Where it is, it's, go ahead, Ken.
well, we're actually in expenditure review. We're in the queue of expenditure review. So the Board of Governors, they meet every quarter.
So the technology
Yep.
proposal that Ken has presented is part of our technology investment to see what we will be doing in terms of the 3 buildings. It's not related to, it's separate. It's
Yeah,
not
I'm just
related to
curious
the
where that
small.
money was and what's been spent,
No.
and was there anything left of that?
There is some.
Yeah, it's primarily all
We've
left.
not gotten.
Yeah,
That's 1.6 million, Ken?
1.6, yeah.
And actually, you said...
Includes security as well. About 200,000 for security cameras, et cetera.
You shared with me, we can actually start, because it's a few years later, we can actually start using some of that money.
Yep,
We kind of need it,
yeah.
because we're counting on it.
Any other questions? Yes.
Bob, I have 2 questions. Is the social worker Kayla a full-time employee?
Yes.
Okay. And the other question, the STEM program, previously it was given at Stony Brook University. Are we no longer, this year it wasn't, are we no longer partnered with Stony Brook and we're going to be doing it on our own here at the high school?
The thing I mentioned, the Fort Jeff, in the pool dive,
Right.
that's how we transferred it. What happened was Ken LaValle informed us kind of abruptly that there are no more funds available to keep our venture with Fort Jeff together going onto the campus. It was really disturbing
Oh,
how
that's what happened.
it was told to us like off the cuff. By the way, there's no money for that. Fort Jeff felt the same way, so did Middle Place Market. And so what we did was, because we thought interest was alive, we have Stony Brook teachers coming here for free, working with our kids on the robotics on a great level. And I met the gentleman, he's great. So we're seeing what we do robotics-wise without extreme cost in transportation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Let's move on to personnel. That's going down with Pete and Marie.
Appointment, substitute teachers, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves the following appointments. Raquel Basto, January 17th, 2018, substitute teacher, $111. Caitlin Talmadge, January 17th, 2019, substitute teacher, $111 a day.
May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Pete. Any comments? All in favor? Yeah. Terry?
Joseph Scalani, Network and Systems Technician. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Board of Education hereby approves the following appointment. Joseph Scalani, January 21st, 2018, as a Network and Systems Technician at STEP.
I'll second that.
Any comments? All in favor? Will Mr. Scrivani please rise? Welcome to the district.
Ken tells us you're very skilled, and that's great. He's been a very busy man, he needs the help. He took his time to find the right person, so welcome to Mount Sinai, you're in a very special place.
Thank you very much. I'm
Ed,
proud
his
to be
Ed,
here.
Your wife, I'm very sorry she was my student.
Yeah, she's over there, actually.
I take that back. What she said. Good to see you. She's a lawyer too, by the way.
Number 3. Ed?
Robert Rooney, middle school boys lacrosse coach. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Board of Education hereby approves the following appointment for Robert Rooney, January 16th, 2019, as a middle school boys lacrosse coach in step 1.
Second?
Thank you, Lynn. Any comments? All in favor?
I was going to say, I'm excited that he's here tonight.
Oh, thank you.
He has been both my boys' coaches, assistant coaches, for a few years, so the team.
Please rise, Mr. Rooney. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a great program, and we thank you for your contributions.
Thank you.
Committee on Special Education, Lynn?
Yep. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education has no objections to the following special education recommendations. and approves the authorization for the funds to implement the special education programs and services consistent with such.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ed. Any comments? All in favor? B, Steve?
Amended sexual harassment policy. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves the first reading of the amended sexual harassment policy as attached.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any comments? It's attached to the back of the agenda. All in favor? And back to Pete, action items, business A.
Action items, business A, memorandum of agreement, Teachers Association. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves a memorandum of agreement with the Teachers Association dated January 15th, 2019.
May I have a second? Thank you, Steve. Any comments? All in favor? B, board committees, Anne Marie.
Board committee resolved, the Board of Education hereby establishes the following advisory board committees for the 2018-2019 school year as listed.
May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any comments? All in favor? Carrie, sorry, forgot you get obsolete equipment.
Obsolete equipment, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby declares the following items as obsolete, authorizes disposal as listed.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pete. Any comments? All in favor? And D, if you wouldn't mind going on to D, E, and F.
Okay. Partial senior citizen tax exemption. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby reaffirms the maximum income for the partial senior citizen tax exemption, RP 467, as $37,399.
Second?
Any comments? I'll just add, each of these, and I'm skipping a little bit of ahead, are important to portions of our community. Budgeting is not just numbers, budgeting is about our community, and each of these is a help to various portions of our community. All in favor? Ed, limited income disability?
Limited income disability exemption. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby reaffirms the income limits for the limited income disability tax exemption, RP 459C, at $37,399.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments? In favor? F, finally, Ed?
F, alternative veterans exemption. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby reaffirms the following. Alternative veterans exemption, RP 458A resolution as listed.
Both for the alternative veterans and the Gold Star parents exemption as listed on the agenda. Each of us will take a moment to read that. May I have a second?
A second.
Any comments? All in favor? Please take G, Cold War veterans exemption.
Absolutely. Cold War Veterans Exemption. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby reaffirms the following Cold War Veterans Exemption, RP 458B resolution.
As listed.
As listed.
Take a moment to read that. May I have a second? I'll offer a short comment on our veterans. What this means is that they get a discount in a simple term to their tax in the community. What that also means is that each of us, through this process, are taking that on ourselves. There's a tax levy. The tax levy will remain the same, but we're assuming a little bit more because of their service and sacrifice. I think to everyone in the room, all the members of the board, we are honored to do that. All in favor? Pete, would you please do H?
I understand.
Aye.
H, fire ambulance workers exemption. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby reaffirms the following fire ambulance workers exemption, RP 466C resolution as listed.
Second.
Any
Madam,
comments? Another area of both are, Pete and Steve are both volunteers and serve us when we are home on a cold night like this and they're out. There are many of you who serve us in both the fire and ambulance. Go to a game, she's going to be embarrassed that I use her name, Cynthia Harris is at every single game, watching over our children, volunteering, and this is another way that we can offer them a little bit of thanks as a community. All in favor?
Madam Secretary, please don't mind absentation.
Any questions? Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good evening.